What's?
Well, I just know that they do like plant sales and stuff there. We were, I know there was.
She went to
one point
fundraise.
about the rooftop location, in regards to being able to.
Do we have anyone that wants to do
Yeah,
anything?
yeah, that gets tricky too in terms of egress. In fact, we ran into this at Bates where you have to, if we're going to have people up there, we have to make sure we've got appropriate egress from the rooftop, which is different than for just servicing mechanical equipment. And I was trying to find, granted, when we're meeting with staff is coming up. And maybe we can sit down and actually pinpoint exactly where it's.
Oh, come on.
To take a class. Absolutely, that's and that they sell some of the. Oh, that's awesome. Yep. Yeah, I'm looking again to see next because I think it's coming up here. See if this. Yes, it is. It's the 17th. Yep. So we can sort of nail it down. Excellent.
That's still over here? Billy, is this yours?
Now you're getting to the fun stuff.
Okay, I didn't want you to forget it. Mom didn't want you to forget you. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, he did. He did. He
We
did.
let
He
him
snuck out.
go home early tonight.
Are we ready? We are ready. All right. Before we actually begin, I'd just like to read what was in the newspaper this morning. Lisa D. Swain had named principal at Harriman. Lisa has been promoted to principal at Harriman effective September 23rd. The company has announced she joined the firm's 8 other owners, encompassing a diverse core of leaders from the multidisciplinary architectural, engineering, and planning process. Lisa is a senior architect and leader in Harriman's education studio. Having joined Harriman in 2016, she has over a decade of experience in K-12 and higher education projects throughout New England and beyond. She is passionate about learning environments that support both education and students. She holds a Bachelor of Science and Master's in Education from Norwich University and is based in Harriman in Portland and in Auburn. And I know that you are a partner too, right? Or
I at times am.
a principal.
When I'm not driving Lisa around.
So the bottom line is that we have a great team working for us, with us, and we certainly appreciate it. And this is for you, Lisa.
Someone asked, does that mean that Lisa can boss you around now, Mark? And I said that she didn't have to wait to become principal.
It's always been a perfect job. Well, thank you all. I appreciate that. That was very kind.
Turn it over to you guys.
All right, so we have a fun evening of catching up on all the work the subcommittees have been doing. There's lots of work going on in that 1 hour before this meeting. It's really exciting. So we had multiple committees going tonight, as always. The first committee that we have on the docket tonight is Athletics and Site. And I know that you had several folks from Harriman helping you guys through that meeting. Would you like to report out on what you guys discussed?
I think we have the shot put, discus, javelin dilemma sorted out. I think we have it there. Some good discussion of.
Put it in writing and have everyone sign it?
No, well, what really.
A great idea,
what was
Katie.
Once we examined it was really funny. You guys know this better than anybody. Like, if you push here, you pull there, and
yeah.
we got some things sorted out because we took some bleacher space out from the multipurpose field, and it was a really neat discussion that on the roadside to the multipurpose field would be a sloped hill. So really we weren't really looking to have the need for bleachers over there, and where it was really supposed to be more of a multipurpose practice area and some JV places, we could put in some portable bleachers, which cleared up some space to be able to move the shot put back in an area that we could feel comfortable. Mr. Weatherby did a really good explanation of how we could do that and get that comfortable, and Frank was able to do some tweaking and pulling. So I think we have that sorted out, and for me, it became real exciting because now we were really talking about the landscape and how people would view that field, and that was pretty cool. So I think we're closer there than we've ever been.
Excellent.
We talked about some of the pricing differences. Frank went and examined what would it look like to take that multi-purpose field turf and lay it into the baseball field, for that to be the multi-purpose area, and that was about a $300,000 difference, and so that was enough for us to go, we're going to pause there. I think we are going to continue with examining that the other turf area would be on that multi-purpose area or not overlay it onto the baseball field. We discussed fences and storage sheds for tennis, softball, and baseball areas, where would be the best places and sizes for that. We talked about lighting for the stadium, and that the baseball/field hockey area and tennis is what's projected, and that in order to do it for softball, that as well would be $300,000 to increase the lighting for softball, but we felt that we would be able to hit a good balance of the baseball field being also available for field hockey, so it wouldn't kick us out of compliance with Title IX. We don't know that for a fact, but we do know that kind of passes a straight face test to be able to say that there's equity in that. Talked about irrigation being available on the stadium, not that it needs to be watered, but you had water available to it, and that irrigation was for baseball and softball. Then we got into the fun stuff of talking about concessions for the outside, and we had a really good problem-solving area, in that we talked about having like a permanent carport over the outside. And that Melissa had decided to go check out Bonnie Eagle. They have a pretty good setup of having it outside and having it vented outside, so that we weren't taking away indoor square footage, but adding outdoor square footage with a permanent floor, permanent roof, but open on 3 sides for a lot of the grilling and frying and things like that. And so that allowed for freeing up some permanent square footage, but creating outside square footage. And then we got to the Dutch door conversation for the inside of the gym and the inside of concessions, and Mr. Gordon thought that was a good solution. He's going to get out some graph paper and a T-square and start diagramming that 200 square feet, so it had access to the hallway, access to the gym. We had talked about the amount of counter space that needed to happen, and so that was very collaborative. That's what this process was to be about. These are the needs, and how do we make this all work? And between the inside concession, the outside concession, and shot put, I think we really moved some things along well, and really were able to examine some dollars on anything is possible if you want to pay for it. But when we really started to talk about moving the turf onto the overlay of the baseball field, that was, I think we all just kind of shook our heads like, yeah, that's a lot.
Scott, the inside concession for the gym, it will also serve as the inside concession for the performing arts?
That's why, yes, because to have that access to the hallway, which has an entry point, the hallway has an exit and entry point for the auditorium. It's right in there, and then so the concessions can be there and can be used dual. And so that's why the larger piece of window would be on the hallway side, but we still wanted some for the inside of the gym. For a variety of reasons. And when it comes to using the auditorium, they can be in the hallway, as well as I'm sure we would, if scheduling wise, they could be able to access the gym as well as a milling around area.
And did we lose?
It will be a second, if I have this correct. For the performing arts will be the ticket concession area right outside the performing arts. The one in the gym will be an overflow, so if there is a big event in the auditorium, they could open 2 concession stands. And then the one they're talking about is mostly for the gymnasium area, for the athletics.
And do we lose any space inside the gym
Yes.
for this?
We
We
do.
we lose storage space for PE and athletics.
About 200 square feet.
200 square feet, so we lose a room size? Okay.
And we did talk about that, we're probably going to have an MOU for use of concession stand areas, because it's a community-based areas. There may be groups that come in and say, we're going to be running this event, we would like to run the concession stands and have the revenue go to us. So it's not just grandstand area, it's going to need to be flexible on who's using it, when, who collects the funds. So we're going to have to work together on that. It's going to be also scheduling of what's going on in the gym, what's going on in the performing arts in that area.
And it's also going to be on who is capable, who is qualified to run the concession
Right,
stand.
right.
For liability
Right.
purposes.
There was, in our conversations with the Career Tech program, the Culinary Career Tech program, they have a great interest in being able to cooperate on events in the building. So the idea of doing a dinner and a show, maybe.
Yeah.
The
Right,
idea that,
exactly.
Loved cater.
Wonderful.
So, so there's a real strong desire to understand where their space is in relation to the theater and the traffic pattern for the theater and opportunities to collaborate, so.
You have the athletic facility up behind you, is that
Yep.
what you have there?
Yes.
So where's the practice field?
There's all kinds of practice.
Where is the whatever
There,
field?
the multipurpose?
Yes.
Right behind the stadium.
Right there? And that's going to be turfed?
Yes.
Okay. And there was a movement to move the turf into the baseball field, is that what I'm understanding? Okay. And that's the $300,000 difference to move it there? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Any other questions for the Site and Athletic Committee? Very productive hour you guys had.
We're slow starters, but we get going.
It's a while to warm up. All right, we have several site plans. So just the layers of site plans you're seeing as Frank is working through all the grading of the site. We've had surveyors out there, geotechnical engineers as well. So things are happening. Performing arts is up next.
Ooh, Jonathan,
Ooh, Jonathan.
what'd you guys talk
Jonathan,
about?
I have the drawings in here that you guys looked at, so if you want to reference them.
Yes, I was actually going to ask you. Okay, so this is what I learned today is called the stage house, which is the actual stage itself. So this is looking from the side with some people for a scale. Top one doesn't have a fly, or I'm sorry, the left one doesn't have a fly. The next one has basically a 49-foot fly, so you don't accidentally hit 50 feet, basically. And then with the stuff at the top, like equipment up at the top, you'd have about 45 feet that you could fly up into. We'd be looking at a 22-foot tall proscenium, so the opening that you're actually looking at, we'd be looking at 22 feet. Okay. So basically where we've landed is number 2, essentially. Because when you step up to number 3, you do gain some things. You do gain scribbled all these, a gridiron, which is basically a area to walk up high for maintenance purposes, basically. It's the next level up. It does give you more flexibility, but with that comes the cost of having to do fire-rated wall. You have to do, at the front, you have to put fire-rated curtains, money. So basically, our discussion as a group is that we don't think it's quite worth it to make that step from 2 up to 3. I just don't think from kind of a bang for our buck, we wouldn't gain enough to make it worth spending the money. We all think the money would be better spent in other areas within the performing arts, is kind of where we landed. We would still get the fly space that the voters voted on. So we would still get that. We would get the fly space to go up and fly things out. So that was about 15 minutes of our conversation. So we kind of landed on number 2. Any questions about that piece?
And it's going to be fire safety.
I mean, there is fire safety, yes. There's smoke vents at the top. Those are required by code. It's all to code.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just, it has to be in the next level. It has to be more.
But because, again, the height isn't as large, we don't have to put that strict separation, so that the issue is that if it's a larger stage house, then there's more potential for combustible materials in it that could spread into the auditorium portion itself. So, but the curtains are all flame retardant or fire treated products as well, and those have to be constantly maintained. So that's part of the fun of operating and owning a theater.
So for those that weren't in the subcommittee meeting, I believe, was it Jim or John who was on the line? John was on the line from Theater Design with the subcommittee tonight. He was remoting in and kind of talking through the different questions in regards to the designs. You want to go on to the concepts?
Yeah, so let's, concept number 1 has so the stage now, so this is obviously looking down from the top. You can kind of understand, basically we have turned what we're all used to seeing for the last about year or so. We've turned it on its side. So the gym's on the side there, the entrance, and then off to the right of our screen here is where the band and chorus room are. This design goes a little bit wider and a little bit shorter is basically it. We're looking at essentially a 80 by 40 foot stage. John from Theater Consultants said that was what they thought in their professional opinion. Our thought is that makes sense. That would be the size we would need. So a couple things. I'll just talk really loud so maybe the mics pick me up. Basically, and I'll talk a little bit more. You can see right in here, there's basically an adjustable screen that will open and close. So there will be sometimes that basically the wing space is going to be here and this whole area, and then there's sometimes when you can open it up for bigger groups. So that's basically what you see for this option. Is the next slide. So this one does have actually a balcony. That's just looking at the sight line. So you can see that one's actually opened up a little bit. So just showing a band on the, the wing space has opened up, the proscenium opening has opened up a little bit wider, so the wings are not as big. So the next one, so this one does actually show a five-row balcony that runs around 250 seats, about 900 to 950 on the floor, and then about 250 up on the in the balcony. So again, this one's a little bit wider this way. Oh yeah, can you go back one quick slide? So this one has an interesting kind of concept where you'd have some stairs coming directly down into the main house also. Just something that we'll have to kind of tease out as part of the design, which I think gives some different options for accessibility and just other kind of programming options. I thought that was kind of a neat option. So the next one kind of looks from the side. So this kind of looks at some of the sight lines coming down, and it basically drops you off around row 6, but you can see even from the back you're getting all the way to the stage. And then you can see the catwalks. This is again just early schematics. Can you jump forward to option 3 actually? So concept 3. So basically concept 3 knocks out we don't do a balcony in this one. So this is definitely a bigger, and then you have 2 cross aisles coming across here. And then you'd have, exits coming out. So it's just another option. Can you hit one more? go one more, does it have the side view? So yeah, you can see this just doesn't have the, so it gets a little steeper towards the back here, you have your control room, and you just, you back up one. With this one, it actually, the back row is farther from the stage. So that's one thing we didn't necessarily like. We liked about option 1 and 2. Concept 3 here, we just didn't like how far back that set us quite as much from that standpoint. So we came to, can you go back to the first slide of concept 3, concept 2 now? Yeah, perfect. So, so this is, yeah, so this is concept number 2 that we're calling it, which basically narrows the width from here to here. Narrows it in basically the same width as the stage, was my understanding on that. This is kind of what we came as, what we liked as our top option. Again, around 950 seats or so on the main floor, and then around 250 up in the maybe, and those are subject to change, of course. The advantage of this one, it narrows things in a little bit. Again, the back row here does get you closer to the stage, so you've got sightlines. You can see some. These are actually people on the stage, so you can kind of see somewhat of the scale. A couple things. Again, you do have these adjustable panels basically that will be able to move in and out. So if you have a big, band, all-state or something like that, and you need the full stage, you can open it up and you've got a big stage. But if we're doing a drama production, we need bigger wing space and you don't need as much. They can come in. It just opens up a lot of options as far as programming. We've got control space, sound mix, and then the one thing we liked on this, and this is really a discussion I think we need to kind of have as a bigger group, really with kind of some of the gym design and stuff, is this gives us some space in here for audience support is what they called it. So we would have to kind of, as the plan develops, would the toilet space shift over here? And then we were going back and forth, and this will, I think, really will have to be a discussion because we also talked, could we mirror this and flip this up? So kind of you just flip this right over, and then we have this audience support stage up by the cosmetology, up by the culinary arts and stuff, and then here in the hallway, yeah. So, or the thing I was thinking, again, just a discussion we need to have, if we're having big, huge events in the gym, would this be able to support some gym options too? Would we have this support space for if we have big events in the gym? Versus do we flip it up and then we have more of a performing arts center space close to the gym or close to the cafeteria and that, versus keeping it down here. The other advantage is we were thinking we'd have a door here, and then this would be kind of back of the house, like dressing rooms and kind of all this stuff. And again, the plan's just to kind of develop as we go. So
This has a balcony.
this has, yes, can you go to the next slide? So you can see the balcony's a little bit longer. There's, I think, 2 extra rows on this one. And then
How do
this
I
side.
get to the balcony?
So we had talked about also putting a set of stairs, and I think that's just something directly from the house. But also, if you remember, the plan has been to access the balcony from the 2nd floor, up by the guidance, by the media center, and all that stuff.
So there'll be an elevator to the 2nd floor where we can access this.
Yeah, please.
So the people at Theater Projects, this is a recent option that they said, we're just trying teasing this out when they wanted actually direction from us, which design do you like before we flesh out the details. So they did say at this point it is a 2nd floor access, and I said, can we look at how can we get the stairs in the house, like option 1. He said we'll have to play with that and see what we can do, but at this point it's entering from the 2nd floor in the lobby. Yeah, which there's an elevator there by the office, so that is there. And they said, one thing and I asked, I said, is the balcony going to cost us much more money? He said it is a good use of your money because you've already got the 2nd floor structure there with the rest of the building. You've got the elevator, you've got the bathrooms, you've got the support. So it may cost a little more, but not significantly more because a lot of that is already there. So
will there be steps in the balcony down on the rows?
Yes.
Or will it be?
Can you
So
go to the?
So I guess I'm looking for handicapped accessibility.
Yeah,
in the
there would be
balcony.
handicap accessibility in the back. That's
Okay.
what those are. Yep. And then it would be steps, 15-inch rise between levels. So 2 treads, I think, maybe.
In fact, you can see the two treads on the far lower and upper areas. So right there.
Oh, yeah, double treads. So,
As far as giving your space away to, yeah, as far as giving your
No, I heard him
space,
say he was giving it.
as far as giving your
Flexibility within
space
the-
away, as
We're
no,
not
no.
giving any space away.
far as giving your space away, down there on that bottom part, be careful what you do, because this is what you wished for, and you need to use it.
So as we looked at this picture, the first question I had is they've taken this and laid it over Harriman's blueprint. So if you look at some of the stage now cuts into the tech shop, the stage storage, because what we saw previously from Harriman is a rough estimate. You know, this is the square footage you have, and we have to tweak it. So that tech shop may end up over here, the drama storage may end up somewhere different. It may end up, and I asked him, I said, well, it may end up over here. Like we may find, and he mentioned we have to talk with Harriman's about what do we really need for proper dressing room size if we're going to have a shower in there for bringing in groups. The 195 square feet may not be big enough. And we could extend that a little bit over to here. I know a discussion we've had is, you know, those 3 women's toilets enough, you know, for an auditorium that seats 1,200 people. Maybe we look at putting more restrooms in here. You know, we're not sure as the details come out, how can we use that to better support, you know, the front of the house or the audience
You
needs.
can't use it for a band room or a band practice or any of those rooms down on the side there?
So
I think that's our discussion for next week, but
I just want to clarify, the rooms at the bottom aren't new or being given away. They existed along the other hallway. They've just been
Okay.
folded down below.
Okay.
So it's all the same spaces, just reconfigured.
Okay. Peter?
On the issue about the restrooms, is there a formula that you use to determine how many restrooms you're going to have?
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the plumbing code says, okay, for this many occupants in a building, you have to have a certain number of water closets, urinals, lavatories, drinking fountains. And so, but we can look comprehensively, not just at one location. We can look at the areas that are open to the public and have restrooms available. So even though we're looking at, you know, what we have available right there,
Yeah.
just further down the hall, we have another complement of restrooms as well. So we look at it in total to what's available.
I know when the Cumberland County Civic Center, now called the Crush Insurance Arena, was renovated, one of the big deals was adding more restrooms.
one thing we also asked him about was pit orchestra. That was a discussion we had early on, is where do we put a pit for musical? And something he suggested we look at is finding a way to take some of these front 3 rows of seats and put them on what he calls a wagon. So they may fold down and they slide under the stage. So when we have a musical, we put the pit orchestra here in the front, and then we pull those seats out. And then when we're done, you know, just pull the seats back into the house. And there is a curved, or what we call a thrust stage here at the front. So if you have a guest lecturer, you don't want, you know, one person standing on a 3,200 square foot stage. You just close the show curtain and then have one person there as a guest speaker, or at class night, or, you know, if you have something, you know, presentation, be more a smaller setting.
Where's the line for the balcony on that? How far out is the
Can
balcony?
you go to the 3rd slide? Yep, so here's the balcony. If you can go back 1.
Finger right there.
Yep. So 4 rows, if we can go to the 3rd slide down the side view, profile view. So it goes over about 4 to 5 rows, and I asked them specifically, I said, what about the sight lines? And if these lines show you the sight line from the top of the proscenium, the opening of the stage, to the last row. So this should be fine. I also asked about the sight line from the balcony, because there's other schools to our south that we visited that there's a sightline issue there, that you sit in that front row, you miss the bottom half of the stage. And he said that, you know, they've looked at that, they take that very seriously, and that's one of the biggest concerns, the sightline. I also asked about the acoustics, because sometimes the overhang of the balcony affects your acoustics. He said they've not yet met with the acoustician, is that the correct term? But they will be doing that soon, and that's one of their big questions, is how can we, he said right now he just has a block, a straight line of a wall. He said that probably won't be a straight line when it's done. So, and these curve tiles are ceiling tiles, so you direct the sound with it, and the goal is that every seat will sound the same. Doesn't matter where you sit.
Peter?
Is it possible if you had a guest symphony come, that the symphony could perform in this performance art theater? No reason why not?
Reason why they couldn't?
Yeah,
Not at all. No.
okay.
That's kind of the intent, is to look at flexibility and to expand upon our community's resource and bring those into the school, too. I think it'd be great to have things like that we could, bring kids in to see a dress rehearsal or something.
Thank you.
Mid-Coast Symphony comes to the Franco Center now a couple of times.
And we brought up once again, and John from the theater consultant said they basically design all of their facilities to be flexible. If we've got a group of 100 people coming in, or if we've got 1,200 people coming in, or anywhere in between that we can go up and down. And I think that's one advantage of the balcony, that you do have the full 1,200, but you can go up and down. So that was a big thing for us.
So does it cost more to go with the balcony than it does the floor?
Yes, than the rake floor, it does. Yep. Structurally, we spend more on the steel and being able to cantilever that steel out over the existing seating on the lower seating area.
And we don't have a price on that yet.
Not yet, no.
The elevator is already there.
The elevator's already
We already
there.
have, elevator access to the second floor.
And it does come down to that bang for your buck. And I think
Oh,
that
you
was,
can.
yeah. The kind of our thought was the cost of it is worth that extra little investment, that we're getting a lot more out of it. And I think that's one thing, looking at some of those, if we go with a narrower, where do we situate specifically those other support? And that's just gonna have to be an ongoing conversation amongst us, but then how do we, turn around and support the other outside? Would it be better closer to the main entrance to have a bigger space there with more restrooms, down on that end near cosmetology and near the, do we want that space, or keep it down towards the community end with a gym? And I think that's just a conversation we'll have to have as we move on in this, as a team, as a group.
Good point. Okay, who's next?
Any other questions for performing arts?
I have one just about security. Having a balcony with second floor access, does that raise any additional security issues as far as designing that? Because you've now got crowds on both levels and things like that. What effect would that have on things?
Yeah, and that's actually the one consideration that pushes sometimes people away from having a balcony, but the idea is that you have the ability to lock off access from the upper level into the balcony, and so that only during a performance would you open it up to have access to it. So you can certainly control access to it, and then from a student use, or if you have students that are filling the entire auditorium, you probably want to have some administration up there during that time. But does that sort of address that? Or yeah, absolutely.
It's opening
yeah.
up a different
Yep,
level.
absolutely.
Is Hampden have a balcony?
Hampden has a
Yes,
balcony.
we'd have
Yep.
to talk to them, probably, what they do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember which ones have one, but.
Yeah. Not too many. Hampden, I think, was probably one of the only ones in the state that has the balcony. So.
Okay, with that, we will go on to building systems and sustainability.
Who's here? Sue? Jeff left.
Jeff left. Yeah, we can't pick on him.
We had a very nice meeting. What you see, we had a very nice meeting, and what you see here, jump in, is we have the brick facade, and it's Moran brick. So we have the brick facade. We have the, ta-da,
Auburn, Maine brick, so
Locally sourced.
very
And then
sustainable.
the gray part is, what is the
Heavy, they're not
tactile?
Tactiles.
Okay, which is the cement. It's
Right.
a cement, heavy, it's
High density concrete.
very heavy, and it,
Very durable.
very durable. We talked about, there was another part that went,
Do you want me to go to the one that has
The
the
trespass-
numbers that kind of identify?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Holy crap, those are bricks. Okay, so one is tactile, which is this,
Right.
coming around, okay? And then, what else? We got number
Brick. and then
2
we
is
have-
brick. 3 is trespa.
That's the end.
Okay. Go ahead, Sue, say it.
The trespa is different colored, it's shaded, and it gives it a real nice look, soft.
Almost a wood look
Yeah.
on it, too.
It's romantic walnut.
And number.
I didn't hear this coming.
Romantic walnut, Mark.
Romantic
So number 4
walnut.
is the storefront.
Front of the, yeah.
And let's hit the next one. Please.
Oops, sorry, too far.
Okay, so number 1, tactile, you can see that we can do different things with it. We can put it upside down, sideways, inside out, whatever, right?
You got it.
Different sizes, we can do that. Brick is, the second one down there is the brick, and, go ahead.
And they can make it, break it up so it doesn't look like a straight run of bricks. Yeah.
All right, so we've got that, and then the trespa, which was the last one that went around that's warm looking, the wood one.
It's a phenolic panel.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a resin.
exactly is trespa?
It's a resin.
Resin, yeah, it's a phenolic resin, so they, and then they laminate a wear layer on the surface of it, so
So-
pretty durable.
Not something the city's going to have to replace in 5 years.
Correct.
They figured that the duration is 40 years.
Perfect.
So where you see
That's for us.
the warm wood in the entryway, it's a nice way to introduce the warmth of wood without having to do the maintenance. And then, so it's the wood, and then where you see the gray. So the nice thing about the phenolic panels are you can have a variety of wood grains or colors, and we can have some fun with that.
And what I thought was interesting is that when you get to the courtyard, you're going to see a prison courtyard, it looks like, from another school.
Oh, with the image, not the one that we're designing.
right.
Just to clarify,
It looks like a prison courtyard.
Would you like me to go to that image so that people can understand?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, one more.
One more.
So this is the image
This is
that
the
Bonnie is
image.
referring to.
All right, so what's the good thing about our school is that it's going to look the same on the front and the back in the courtyard part.
So there'll be a nice mix of brick and tactile and trespa and glazing or windows within the courtyard. So there's a little bit more variety of materials as well as the massing of how those materials are applied.
And while we're in the courtyard, I think it was Billy that pointed out that these have straight lines and for walkways.
Right.
And we're not necessarily going to have a straight line. We could have circular or whatever. Pat and Brandy, you want to say anything? Jump in?
And we'll share some layouts of the courtyard in subsequent meetings, but the idea is to have nodes sort of right in the middle, so you can, if you're coming from any of the corners, you can sort of cut through the center and to the other corners.
So go back one, there's the auditorium. So this is an idea that was kind of different from anything that I think we've seen on our tours, was the pop of color for the auditorium or any significant place that we may want to use color in. So just to signify that,
To distinguish between
Yep.
cafes,
Yeah.
and it can't be called a salon.
the cosmetology. Okay. Okay, thank you.
So we talked about having a neutral color palette with a lot of the materials, and then using paint mostly, and maybe some of the furnishing to introduce the pop of color, but use it sparingly so it really draws attention to whether it be the auditorium or when you come into that common area where there's the cafe and the cosmetology. We're starting to create what we call storefronts or identities like you see in this image here, and so using different colors to help identify those areas.
And Brandy brought up a very good point, is that hallways are often noisy. So what are we going to do to keep the noise down? Acoustical tiles are on the ceiling, and oftentimes the flooring is a rubber-type facility, a
Floor.
on it. So
Sound panels too.
Yeah, some of the images we looked at, I don't know about this image in particular, but where you see the wood here, and then also in the West Bridgewater photo, with their community stair. They had a wood panel system along that curved wall that was a acoustical material. So there was perforations in it, and there was a backing behind it, so it had acoustic properties to it. So there's different ways we can apply different materials to help with the acoustics of the space.
Anything else? Pat, Randy? Sue?
No, no.
Billy, did we miss anything? Okay.
And we I think, shared, or the start of color palette for the interiors.
Started to pass this around, so the introduction of different pops of color, and then the neutral paint colors that could go along with them.
And so if you look there, there's an orange up there. That could be whatever design it says.
It says digital design in this
Digital
image.
design up there. So you could see the different colors and know that that's your area that you're going towards in this big building.
Yeah, so this is that idea of almost like a retail storefront. A little bit different application in your design. The other way that we'll use color, Rob at Lewiston Regional Technical Center was talking about CTE and really wanting to brand the different programs. So just like when you arrive at a business, you know that you've arrived at that business. And so using, whether it be color or different ways of designing the entrance to those spaces, so it really starts to brand it as a company that the students are arriving at.
And safety was very important in all this, and we were assured that there were different layers of safety for our students and our staff on here.
Yeah, I think they, those that went on the Sanford tour saw the use of those really strong colors as an understanding of where you were in the building and what career pathway or career technology pathway you were in. So that's probably a similar thinking as to the use of color.
The one other thing that I think we introduced, these are different images that many folks have seen throughout the design of EL, and we use these as our inspirational images. So as we're designing the spaces, we're pulling off of different aspects of buildings that we've either experienced or seen in publications. And this is what we call the hobbit holes in the library. And so these are the idea of having just a recessed space. It's where kids can sit with a book or a laptop, but by recessing it like that, it helps with the acoustics too, and cut down on some of the noise. But just in the Learning Commons, making sure there's a great variety of seating and opportunities. We talked a lot about the adjacency to the cafe and things in our programming meeting the other day.
Do you do a lot of talk about calming colors? Like, you know, what's going to be in classrooms that is very calming? But, you know, because there were some colors at Sanford, I was a little, you know, like the cosmetology, I thought I didn't really care for that color much. Because it was that bright green that, so is there?
I thought we would all have all neon colors.
Right, well, this, you know, what are the research around colors?
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
There's a
the
lot of
warm
research,
yellow, warm, you know, because some of those colors,
Some of those
like
are
you
a
said, might be a storefront, but not where I want to be living.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Right.
So these aren't the typical ones you'll see in the classroom.
Purple, it was that purple in cosmetology.
Oh, in the cosmetology, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, okay, that's a little,
Yeah, so we'll definitely look into the colors within the
yes.
classroom, as well as the classroom sort of pull-out spaces. But this is more kind of the identity of the different storefronts or brands within the school.
And we're looking at glass, a lot of the glass in the hallways.
Yeah.
Some glass, a lot of glass. Safety again. Right. We were explaining the safety part of it, so another layer of safety going on.
Yeah, so a lot of conversations around glazing, and there's always that tension between wanting to make sure it doesn't feel like a jail, and we don't have everything blocked off and it's behind, you know, CMU walls, but having a layer of transparency so we can put learning on display. All the CTE conversations we've had, and we keep referring to CTE because it's the most program we've done to date. They talk about really wanting to showcase these programs and put them on display so that all the students are seeing what's going on. And so in those situations where there is a lot of glazing, we just have to work with the staff and the students to understand what are those layers of safety within that space in the event of an event that we have to have a lockdown. So I'll just kind of cycle through some of the imagery, but you can see in some of these right here, just that pop of color to really brand the different areas of the building.
So the hobbits could be another Google stairs, so we need to be sure we're careful what we're calling these little secure places, and then not Google stairs that the community was really concerned about. So they're nice, secure.
Study carols.
Right, right, study carols, right. Right.
And this was just looking at a walkway at the second floor, kind of like you'll have in your building overlooking the commons area with the clear story up above.
And this is just a sample, that's not what it's
Yeah,
gonna look like.
none of it's just sort of images we're starting to pull together to get ideas of looks and feels of spaces. It will not look exactly like any one of these photos.
I think I like this better than just the plain glass myself.
Yeah, it's a nice scaled space. And then just some theaters that we were looking at, different applications of material, different sizes and shapes, and different tech spaces that we looked at before. And the auxiliary gym being more of a multi-purpose space and different applications of materials in connection to daylight CTE spaces. Can either have in sort of the more the manufacturing areas, more about the machines and some of the other spaces, maybe having a mix of more of like a project-based learning space and great connection to outside. Some of the CTE spaces will open up to the courtyard, so you will have this nice connection to outdoor learning. So that was materials for the building systems. Any questions on that subcommittee? Okay. So moving into the recap of sort of what we've been up to since the last time we've met. We're continuing to meet with many different groups on programming. We have had several conversations with the CTE teachers, with Rob, Katie, and a bunch of folks from Harriman went down and towards Sanford and all of the programs that had overlap with the programs that you'll have at Edward Little. I forget the woman's name who took us around, but Kathy was incredibly generous with her time and spent almost half a day with us. We spent a lot of time in the theater. The theater manager was very passionate about telling us about his space, things they've learned, and just a lot of great information. We've had meetings with some of the aspiration teachers at Edward Little. So the aspiration culinary and mindfulness program we've met with. We've met with athletics. We had a presentation to the staff last week on where we're at with the project. And Thursday, we will meet with the students. We will meet with the leadership group Thursday morning to introduce the project to them in more detail and start to get them more involved in the process. And then we'll set up our storefront that day to where we'll be accessible to the staff. We've already sent out a survey for them to fill out additional information for us, more detailed information than the survey we did about a year ago on sort of the big idea of programming. This, we're getting into more the granular information at this point, and we'll meet with them. You want to add something?
Yeah, we also met with the kitchen staff.
Yes.
And we were blown away that they serve anything more than a bologna sandwich in that kitchen. So it's amazing how resourceful they are with the equipment that they have.
Absolutely. We brought our kitchen, we work with a kitchen consultant, Tom McCardle, when we design our kitchens, and he walked around, he said, well, where's your dishwasher? And a gentleman raised his hand. He's like, bless you. So you guys are doing an incredible job with what you have. And so in the meetings, we kept being asked to provide guidance as to what you should have in the new school to make sure that this is as flexible as possible for whoever might be the staff in the future. And so we'll continue to provide recommendations around that. But a lot of great synergy. So we brought in a lot of great synergy between that program as well as the CTE program. We met with our kitchen consultant and Dan over at the Green Ladle to talk about the programming there. We had our kitchen consultant meet with Aspirations Culinary as well as the kitchen staff. And so that sort of, the heart of the building is really starting to take shape. A lot of the connections between all those programs and the flexibility between the cafe and the culinary programs being to spill out into the commons, have connections with the learning commons. There's a lot of good conversations happening in that whole area. I wish many more people could be part of these conversations, so you just see people light up around the possibilities. So it's really exciting. So we'll get more. We've met with different teachers. We've met with different directors of special ed, performing arts, administration. We've met with all the assistant principals. I haven't highlighted them yet because we haven't met with everybody. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that they have a voice, and we'll continue to make sure that we meet with all those folks that want to meet with us and provide input in the design moving forward.
Sue, did you have a question? No. Okay.
And so you can start to see the gray out of all the different meetings we've had. And so this Thursday is a really big day for moving a lot of the conversations forward.
We might want to pick another full day with the staff.
Okay, we can do that. So we'll add an additional storefront day to make sure that we can cover everybody. And so in here, so we have all of our consultants on board. We have our surveyor, Mainland Development, Geotechnical, which is R.W. Gillespie. We have theater projects for the theater consultant, Ascentech. So Ascentech is our, for acoustics. Ascentech, theater projects, and all of us are meeting tomorrow to start to have those conversations around the theater, but also the entire school. So Ascentech really looks at the acoustics throughout the school, not just in the performing arts. And then Advanced does our educational technology, so they specialize in technology and learning environments.
So all the consultants are, not to be rude, but all the consultants are part of your contract to us.
That's right.
Correct. They are hired by us under our contract to you
Okay.
guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the flags I saw out front by the EL statue, is that our flags for the project, which
For
was the
the-
gas
Most,
line?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, they had some utility flagging that they were doing as well,
That's
so
part of this.
So you may be seeing flags go up in
Correct.
other,
just a,
Kinds of markers all
yeah, all the
Yeah.
markers are
Absolutely.
for the new building. Well, no, but that's good to get out to
Yeah.
folks is,
yeah, a
People
couple,
are out surveying the land to make sure we have all the data.
yes.
Well, Katie, I thought that was filling in the holes and dealing with that whole area up there. I saw them there this morning.
flags,
Right,
yeah.
and I saw the guy doing it, and I thought, oh, at last we're gonna get these bumps out of here, these holes out of here.
the couple kind of just clarifications, the survey and the geotechnical
Yeah,
are
That's true. That's a good
not
clarification.
out of our feed, but they are already carried in the project budget, so.
Correct.
So you're paying them directly. The other consultant that's not shown that does come out of our fee as well is the kitchen consultant, so Tom McCardle.
The site plan. I had a conversation with the planning board,
Yep.
Yes.
and this site plan has to go before the planning board.
Yep.
And they had issues about closing a street.
They're going tomorrow to the pre-planning
Right.
We
because
are.
of the meeting.
Absolutely.
You had
Okay.
at Hannaford.
We also had a conversation with
Yeah.
the chair
No,
of the
that's
planning
all right.
board.
Yep, the chair works at EL. We met with
Yes.
him after
Quite
the,
familiar.
after the
We're not gonna talk
staff
about
presentation, and we had a long conversation with him as well. We will be meeting with them multiple times, but tomorrow is sort of a bring all of the city engineers together, kind of give them an idea as to where we are in the process, and understand when we will be sitting down to have those more in-depth conversations, which are still several months off. But it's always good to communicate and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yep, they're going to be there tomorrow.
that's right.
We will.
Yep.
So the floor plans, not significantly changed. There's just continuing to be more and more detail put into the plans. And in the next couple meetings, we'll start to be able to bring some more design drawings, so you can start to see how it's taking shape internally. And then the DOE calendar that we're all very familiar with. Monday, we meet with the DOE, that's right, the 21st. We will go up and just have a touch base meeting, let them know where we're at in the process. And the next time we meet with them will be in probably the new year, to bring them up to speed on the completion of design development. So we're kind of marching right through the programming segment of the design. So that green bar, we're coming to the end of programming, and then starting to get into equipment and kitchen, and soon we'll start to layer in furniture layouts. We talked a lot about tonight, exterior materials. We'll get into the courtyard pretty soon here. And then the interior design is starting to take shape. We're starting to apply some materialities, and we'll start to bring some of that information with us at future meetings. The site, we talked about the survey, the geotech. We'll start to get into planning board and permitting here in the next couple months. And systems are ongoing. So as we are advancing the plan, our structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, everybody that we have in-house is working right alongside us to advance their design at the same time. And then communications and technology is sort of one of the last ones to kind of come on board, kind of reacting to how we lay out the spaces. And then we'll have more detailed conversations with folks within the district around that technology. But we're in October, so we have a couple more months, about 2.5, 3 months before we wrap up all the design decisions, and we then start documenting everything so that we can get out to bid next fall. So with that, our schedule going forward, the 15th, which is this evening, is our subcommittee, building committee meeting. Then we meet with city engineers tomorrow. We meet with students on Thursday. We meet with staff on Thursday, DOE Monday. So we have a pretty stacked schedule in the next few days. And then the next subcommittee and building committee meeting is on the 19th of November. And that will be the meeting where we look to start to summarize all of the work that each of the subcommittees has done to kind of report out the recommendations that they have on all the different topics that we've talked about to date. And then we had originally talked about maybe having a presentation or public forum to let the overall public know all of the work that we've been doing. This is just a tentative date that I have up here. It's not set in stone. It's just the next sort of 4 weeks from when our last subcommittee, so we can work out whatever date that would be best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have it in the book as a building committee meeting.
Okay. It could be building or public
I mean,
forum.
yeah, it's in the calendar, so
Okay.
we could talk about what's available. I don't know if basketball's up and running then. It is, correct. So we'll have to look at the gymnasium if it's
Okay.
available.
Yep.
Any
So
other,
stay tuned on that.
any questions for? I meant to do it at the beginning of the meeting, and I'd just like to welcome Pat Cucci to our committee. She has been appointed to be Tom Kendall's replacement on this board, so welcome her.
I'll never replace Tom, but thank you.
So that's why Pat's here with us at the table.
We can give a quick fundraising update.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry, I did not mean to
No,
skip
you were on a
over
roll,
fundraising.
and I wasn't going to interrupt that, no. We had a combination of communications, partnership, we all came together, those of us.
I love the collaboration.
Exactly, yeah. We don't want anybody to feel left out. So we talked about when we were down, when we had just visited Sanford, that we were noticing there were nameplates that we hadn't seen before on
And I
different
were running
programs.
around pointing
Yeah.
at all of them. Katie, take a picture of this one.
Yeah. So we did notice nameplates on CTE, and so we called down today and got their website, and they do have a website for a legacy fund. They have like what we used to have, which was the Auburn Education Foundation, which we no longer have. So it doesn't just fundraise, it also does, you can put in projects to be funded by this foundation as well. So what we noticed, though, it probably went up after the building opened, not prior to the building opened, because there was a lot of pictures of the current building. A lot of the information was from last fall. But why recreate the wheel? They have a naming form with diamond, platinum, so different levels. So we're going to take that and take what we had identified for naming and plug it in to a similar structure. So, and, you know, then we need to bring it to school committee, and we won't probably have another meeting until the new school committee is inauguration, and I don't think inauguration's been set, because you don't know who the mayor is at this point. And that's usually who drives the inauguration. So it might not be till January. But if we can get all the papers together, so I'm going to work on taking their documents and kind of making them our documents, and then see what we can do on our website to beef that up. So we did talk about doing that. There are people that are reaching out. Leonard's reaching out to people to get some connections. I've been, you know, continuing to make connections with what we said at the last meeting about reaching out to folks. Am I missing anything? That's really what we talked about, is taking what, and it's, if you want to see it, it's SanfordSchoolsLegacyFoundation.org. So we're gonna see if we can't reinvent what they already have done to match us.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
So I thought that felt good.
Good.
Now, the names, were they like at Mount Blue where we saw the,
Yes. So.
Like Pratt and Whitney did
Yeah,
precision
Pratt and
engineering.
Whitney, and then they had an alumni, and they had, it was $25,000 for your name on a CTE program, $250,000 for performing arts, and $250,000 for the athletics. And then they had different other levels, like $1,000 for a classroom, $100 for the seat in the performing arts. So we were talking about how we need to make it more about the fundraising. They have it more, a bigger scope. And then we talked about how to have people be able to have contact. Like, I'm interested in diamond giving, who do I contact? So having some ways that people can email or make contact. So, and then we also talked about looking at the alumni list that one of our retired teachers, Miss Peters, Cindy Peters, has put together and given to Rita Beaudry for the city 150th. And so I'm going to get access to that and see how many people are on the list, because we talked about an organization that I had a phone conversation with either last week or the week before, and that might be able to do that for us. So, but we have to have 15,000 names. I don't think we're going to have that, but I'm going to look. You never know. And then we talked about how we're going to collect names during the alumni weekend, and maybe if you put your name on the list of contact, we'll do a drawing at the end of the day of a seat in the auditorium that we could put the person's name on.
Great.
As a way to incentivize people to put their name on the list.
Perfect.
So we have things going on.
Great. Thank you for the update.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, everyone.